This is kind of important. This whole series of videos I see as, yeah, they're instructional. I want to show people how to make icon boards, how to make icons, and have this be part of, for certain people who kind of connect through creativity. This will be a way of meditating as a spiritual practice. And also too, I'm not a professional, I'm not an expert. All of this I'm learning as I go along. So for my very first icon retreat that I did with Father Damien Higgins at Mount Tabor, which is a Ukrainian monastery, Catholic monastery, right next to Vaidiri. We're literally next door neighbors. And I asked Father Damien at the beginning if there's a particular school of iconography that he taught from, because there's like Russian iconography, there's Greek iconography, there's even South American, slightly different techniques and ways of painting, different techniques that they use. And so Father Damien went over to the chalkboard, got a piece of chalk, and he said, I come from, and he wrote, if I can, no, he wrote if I con, like icon, Yukon. And I laughed and I asked him if I could steal that name. So that's a plug here. That's my website address, iconyukon.com. I did ask Father Damien for permission. But then he told me that he's always very humorous, but he told me he was in a class, theology class, and he was supposed to, instead of been taking notes, he was doodling. And his teacher walked by and noticed that he wasn't paying attention. And he saw what he was doodling though, which was probably very high quality doodles. And so there was a monk who was visiting the monastery. He was an icon painter. And so his teacher sent him off to go meet this icon painter. And I think the story goes that Father Damien, when he asked him if he would teach him how to paint, his teacher told him he would, as long as Father Damien promised that he would go on and teach how to do icon painting. And he agreed. And then Father Damien said he got 3 days of instructions. Basically, how to make the boards, how to make the egg tempera solution from the eggs, and how to mix up the paints. And he said his teacher disappeared. He never saw him after 3 days. I think he ran off to Mexico. And so he joked that he said, he was telling the story to about 10 of us that were doing the retreat, and he said it took a couple of years before anybody in the monastery realized he was painting human beings in the pictures. Everybody in the room burst out laughing except for me. And Father Damien looked at me and he goes, don't you find that funny? I said, no, I know exactly what you mean. So hopefully I'm getting to the point where you can tell that they're at least devas and angels. So that's my story about Father Damien. And I kind of tell the story because I do see that, what I'm doing is I got 3 days of instructions from Father Damien and he kicked me out of the monastery. And so what I'm doing, there's probably lots of other conflicting information out there. We'll do this, I'll see what happens if the paints fall off. That'd be sad, but I'm okay with that. I'll hopefully come back and learn from the process. I do remember the very first spiritual community I moved to was the Insight Meditation Society in Barre, Massachusetts. And I remember when I got there as a young man, very energetic and wanting to get things done. The very first job I had was to repaint the window sills around the exterior windows. And this man, John Miller, took me around and he was showing me what to do. And I remember him going up to each window and just sort of looking at the frames and just looking at them. And I was getting really impatient. I was like, well, what do I do? It's like let's start painting those, get the job done. And John didn't say anything. He went up to the next window and looked at the window frame again. Finally, I was just so impatient. I asked him, I said, John, what are you doing? And let's just start painting. And he was like, well, we just painted these a couple of years ago, and I want to figure out, see if I can understand why the paint is actually peeling. Take your time, learn from the process. It's not about getting something done. So even for me, if something comes up in my life that these boards never get beyond the stage right here, if I had fun making these, they were a success.